Okay, strap yourselves in because today we're going deep. We're talking about Indian democracy
Yeah.
and, well, concerns about it.
Right.
We've got this video
Yeah.
that
Mm-hmm.
really doesn't pull any punches. It
Yeah.
dives right into some recent events in India.
Okay.
And, it's raising some eyebrows
Sure.
about how democratic the processes in India really are.
Yeah, yeah.
The crazy thing,
Mm-hmm.
is that this video actually draws parallels to an older video that these same folks put out, where they got a lot of pushback for raising similar concerns.
Interesting.
So
Yeah.
talk about, I don't know, deja vu or something.
It's kind of, yeah, that's kind of telling, isn't it?
Yeah.
If it's a recurring theme.
It suggests a pattern.
Yeah.
It suggests a pattern. And this is kind of a big deal because India is,
Right.
the world's largest democracy.
It's hugely important.
Yeah.
Hugely important. Yeah. So these concerns, if,
Right.
if they're valid,
Yeah.
the implications are huge.
Yeah. Very significant.
Okay, so let's unpack the video's main argument here, which is basically that things in India
Yeah.
might not be as democratic
Yeah.
as they appear.
Okay.
So where do we even begin with that? I mean,
Well, when we talk about a healthy democracy, there are a few kind of essential ingredients, right?
Yeah.
You need free and fair elections. You need an independent judiciary.
Right.
You need freedom of the press. You need protection of individual rights.
right.
And what this video seems to be kind of suggesting is that there are a number of recent incidents in India that point to some potential cracks in those foundations.
Yeah, and one of the biggest flashpoints that the video focuses on is the arrest of Delhi's chief minister, Arvind Kejriwal. I mean, arresting a sitting chief minister,
Yes.
What's a big deal?
that's a big deal.
Huge, yeah.
That's not a small thing. No, it raises a lot of questions. What were the specific charges against him? Was there evidence of actual wrongdoing? Or could this be seen as an attempt to silence,
A political opponent.
a political opponent?
Exactly.
And I mean, looking back historically, we've seen these kinds of tactics used in other countries where we've seen democratic backsliding. So it's definitely,
It's a red flag.
yeah, a red flag.
It's a red flag. That's a chilling thought. The video also dives into the appointment of 2 new election commissioners,
Right.
claiming that they have close ties to Prime Minister Modi and Amit Shah.
Yeah.
So, doesn't that raise concerns about impartiality?
It absolutely does. I mean, the role of the election commissioners is to ensure that elections are free and fair.
Right.
And for that to happen, the public needs to have trust
Right.
in their neutrality. And if people believe that these appointments were made, for political reasons,
Right.
it undermines faith in the whole system.
The whole system. Yeah. And this, it makes you wonder about the bigger picture here, right? Is there a pattern
Right.
of sidelining independent institutions
Yeah.
in order to consolidate power?
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah. And
And what's interesting
the video, go ahead.
is that this video also highlights the fact that there's been, a sort of curious silence from a lot of the mainstream Indian media
Right.
about all of this. They particularly focus on the issue of electoral bonds.
Yeah. What are those? Why
Yeah.
should we care about those?
So electoral bonds they're a way for individuals or corporations
Okay.
to donate money to political parties.
Right.
But the problem is that there's a real lack of transparency in the system. We don't actually know who's donating how much,
Okay.
which really opens the door to potential corruption and undue influence. I mean, it's essentially
Writing a blank check.
writing a blank check to politicians with no accountability.
So it's all about,
Yeah.
who's really pulling the strings and whether there's enough transparency
Right.
to actually see what's going on.
Exactly.
The video doesn't stop there. It also goes into India's new IT rules and how they're being used to control the narrative, like online.
This is where things get,
Yeah.
even more worrying.
Yeah.
What they're arguing is that these new rules are essentially being used to silence dissenting voices
Okay.
and restrict freedom of speech,
Yeah.
particularly on social media.
Right.
They're saying that it gives the government the power to just censor content
Right.
and pressure platforms to take down anything that's critical of them.
So wait, so it's not just about
Yeah.
potential bias in elections
It's bigger than that.
and this lack of financial transparency, but now we're talking about the government being able to control
Right.
what people can and can't say online. That's
Yeah.
a whole other level.
Absolutely. I mean, think about it. In a healthy democracy, you need to have this kind of robust public discourse where people can freely express their opinions, even if they disagree with the government, right?
Right.
But when you start curtailing that freedom of speech, you create this chilling effect on dissent. And it creates this atmosphere of fear and self-censorship.
It's starting to feel like a domino effect, right?
Yeah.
One thing leads to another, and suddenly you have this erosion of democratic values across
multiple institutions.
multiple institutions, right?
That's exactly the concern. And it's important to emphasize that this video isn't saying that India's democracy has, like, totally collapsed.
Right.
But they are ringing the alarm bells.
Yeah.
That these events, if they're not addressed, could lead to a very dangerous path.
So just to recap what this video is, what this video's concerns are, we have concerns about the arrest of a,
major political figure.
huge political figure, the chief minister, potential bias in the appointment of these
Election commissioners.
A lack of transparency.
In campaign financing.
Yeah, and campaign financing. And restrictions.
On free speech.
Yeah. It's a lot.
It's a lot to take in.
It paints a pretty sobering picture.
It does. And, it raises this really crucial question.
Yeah.
What are the potential consequences of all of this for the future of Indian democracy?
Right.
I mean, is this just a bump in the road?
Right.
Or are we seeing the beginning of a much more worrying trend?
And perhaps more importantly, what can anyone do about it?
Right.
It feels kind of overwhelming.
It's a complex situation, that's for sure. But that doesn't mean that we're powerless. Think about it. What actions could citizens take to hold their leaders accountable?
Right.
To protect their democratic rights? What role could the international community play in supporting democratic values in India? Those are really, really important questions to think about.
Yeah.
And maybe even to act upon.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow.
Food for thought.
Food for thought indeed.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Indian democracy.
It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.